Welcome to the Soul Script podcast. Here we explore how to unlock the power of our story. Our journey here on earth can be one of deep passion, intentional creation, and personal transformation. The only thing holding us back is our stories. Come and join me as we rewrite and reignite. Welcome to another episode of the Soul Script podcast, and I am so grateful to all of you guys who keep showing up and who keep listening, and I hope that you really are getting insight into some valuable tools, getting insight into yourself and doing some self-discovery. And the subject that we're talking about today, which is human design, is a fantastic tool to help you go along on this journey of self-discovery, of essentially giving yourself permission to live how you were designed to live. And I think that takes a lot of rewriting, which we talk about a lot on this podcast, is the ability to kind of rewrite our story and to decondition ourselves. And that is a lot of what human design does for us. It gives us an insight into where we've been conditioned, where we are living authentically, and how we can utilize our natural flow of energy to be able to live in the flow of life. I don't know if any of you guys have experienced what it's like when you're in flow. And I talk about that frequently to Andrew, my husband. I'm like, oh man, I'm just feeling in the flow. And sometimes that's when I'm like really in my body and I'm on the ski hill and I'm just like in the flow and energy. I'm so present. But then there's also a flow that I can feel that moves towards something that it's almost like this energy is pulling me in the direction that I need to move. I love living in that flow. And then there's also the flow that comes when you are just so authentically you and you are doing what you are designed to do and you are living how you are designed to live. Each and every one of us has a different design. We are complex human beings. And human design is a modality that I think does this justice, the complexity that we are as human beings. And that is one of the main reasons why I love to use this and why I like to use this tool as I'm doing one-on-one coaching with my clients, because I think it's a really good springboard to a better understanding of yourself. You can see it visually in front of you, which I think probably helps the vast majority of people, is having this visual way of being able to see yourself more clearly. So now that we know essentially why human design is a really valuable tool to have in our toolbox, let's talk about what the heck human design even is. Some of you have maybe been exposed to human design. Maybe you've even downloaded your own chart. And maybe some of you have no idea what I'm talking about. If you are familiar with human design and you already have your chart, I would encourage you to pull it up and have it in front of you during this conversation. You might gain some more insight on your chart. And if you're brand new to human design, I would definitely recommend pulling up either your chart or an example of a chart in front of you. You can download your chart off of soulscriptstudio.com, which is my website, and it will give you this really cool detailed write-up that actually has a lot of really great information that you don't have to go scouring the internet for it. You can see it pretty well in front of you. So feel free to go and download it and pull it in front of you while we have this conversation. Human design takes 4 different ancient modalities of cultures all over the world. And when we put them together, I think it's really cool because we get a bigger picture and we have more resources and more information in front of us. Rather than using one specific modality or viewpoint, we can combine these 4 together and it gives us a broader picture. When you're looking at your chart, what you're going to see are a bunch of shapes, a whole bunch of numbers, and some lines. And when you first look at it, this is overwhelming and you have no idea what any of that means. So I'm going to break down these shapes, numbers, and lines to give you a little bit more information about what the heck they are. Starting with the shapes. These shapes are different centers, whether physically found in your body or energetically found around your body that symbolize some specific function. So one of them is your solar plexus, and it is all about emotions. Another one is your sacral center, and this is all about creation. So all of us have these energy centers that are found within our energetic field. And some of us have these centers defined, and some of them are undefined. And when you look at your chart, you'll see your shapes. There's going to be 9 different shapes, either triangles or squares, and your centers may or may not be colored in. If your centers are colored in, that is a defined center, and if they're white on whatever chart it is that you're looking at, that is an undefined center. And long story short on this, we could go into lots of detail in these different centers and numbers and aspects of your chart. But in a shorter, condensed version, what it means when you have a defined center is that you feel an energy consistently and constantly in that center. So the way that you experience your emotions, let's say if it's your solar plexus that's colored in, the way that you experience your emotions is going to be a pretty constant way of feeling them and expressing them, or a consistent way of expressing them. Your centers that are open or white are centers that are undefined. And these centers are places that we are going to have the opportunity to be conditioned by others or have the opportunity to gain a lot of wisdom that we can share with others. And this is because in these open centers, we are susceptible to other people's energies that are around us. So if we have an open solar plexus, which once again is that emotion center, we are going to feel a lot of people's emotions. They're not going to be our own, and it can be really hard to identify our emotions and somebody else's emotions. And so we can be deeply conditioned by those around us. But the other cool thing is that if I have an open solar plexus, I have the ability to gain a lot of wisdom regarding people's emotions because I have felt a wide variety of emotions if that center is undefined. So we suddenly have this capacity to have wisdom in that area. It is neither a good thing or a bad thing to have a center defined or undefined. All this is information for us so that we can understand maybe here's a potential for healing here. Maybe I haven't been living in my true design here. And when I decondition myself and when I light up how I am meant to live, then everything will flow a lot better. On your chart, within the centers, you're going to see a whole bunch of numbers. And once again, some of these are going to be colored in and some of these are going to be left open. And it's the same thing with these. These numbers are in correlation to essentially, I would say, gifts. Once again, energies that you feel consistently and constantly in your life. But when I look at these numbers, I look at them as spiritual gifts, as something that you innately have, that you were born with, something that you don't have to learn to do. It is part of you. Although once again, we can be conditioned to not live authentically with those gifts, especially if we're told that it's not okay to have those gifts or to express them how we want to express them. The next thing you have are the lines that kind of connect one center to another center, and they have one number on one side and another number on the other side. So those are your gates, are the numbers, and they are defined or undefined. And then you'll see that there's the lines, and those lines are called channels. And those channels can be complete or incomplete. You'll see a portion of it defined and a portion of it undefined if you only have one gate on one side of the channel defined and the other gate on the other end of the channel undefined. Now, like I said, this can be really confusing to try to make sense of if you don't have a chart in front of you. So do your best. If you don't have a chart in front of you, look at one later, but I highly suggest having one in front of you for this conversation. If you have both gates on either side of the channels defined, then your whole channel is going to be defined. And how I kind of think of this and interpret this, and side note, this is all my own interpretation of the human design system. And I think whoever it is that you're going to talk to who is knowledgeable about human design is going to have a different way of articulating it, and also maybe valuable viewpoints that somebody else doesn't have. And so it's wise to talk to a variety of people who are readers or who are knowledgeable about human design. And then it's really wise to use your own discernment when you're looking at these charts or listening to people talking about your charts, because some things may be from their perspective and it may not be true for you, and you need to use that discernment. So in my perspective, when I see two gates on either side with a channel fully defined, I think of this as like your magic sweet spot, because the two gates complement each other really well. They're gifts or energies that when they are used in combination with each other, I say that that's when magic happens. So one of my favorite things to do when I'm looking at somebody's chart is I like to look at their channels, because I consider these some of the strongest energies that they'll experience and some of the greatest gifts that they contribute to their family, anybody around them, their community, and even on a wider scale, the world. Now, there's a lot more to a chart. You have a list of numbers on either side of the chart, and those are directly in relation to the numbers that are defined in your chart. Then you have arrows by your head, and then you have a whole write-up, usually below your body graph, that gives you more information about yourself. We're going to stop there as far as looking at the body graph, because I don't want to make this too complex. This is just the beginning. I'm looking at my chart and I'm familiarizing myself what this even means. But we are going to talk about your energy type, because I think when you download your human design chart, that is the first thing we jump to, because maybe it's the thing that we can understand easier than looking at a bunch of shapes, numbers, and lines. When you download your chart, you can scroll down and you can see your energy type. And there are 5 different energy types that are possibilities. Now, what your energy type tells you is essentially how you experience energy, how other people experience your energy, how your energies interact with each other, and then also how you best kind of fit into the world. What is your role? What are your strengths? And we all have these strengths and a role that we get to play. It gets very, very specific when you look at your channels and gates, but here's like a general view of your role. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this. Once again, I think we need additional episodes. If you're interested in learning more about this, you can tell me in the comments. You can reach out to me via Instagram at SoulScript Studio and let me know that you are interested in learning more about human design, and we could go through more of this and break it down on a more detailed level. But for today, I am going to give you the example of what a projector energy type shows up like and what their role is in their own life, their family, society, and kind of the world as a whole. The reason why I am going to talk to you today about projectors is because I am a projector. So this was the first energy type that I ever learned about. And of course, it's an energy type that is near and dear to me because it is the one that I experience. Although it has been a joy for me to have different clients come in with different energy types, and I get to sample what their energy is like and understand it on a deeper level. But for today, we're talking about projectors. Now, let me back up a little bit to give you context about what I'm going to share with you today about projectors. We're going to back up to really when I was like 16 years old and I had the ability to get a job. Usually it's around 16 where you can apply for a job legally and be employed. And my very first job was at Dick's Market. And it was an okay job, I guess. You start there as a bagger until you have a little bit more experience. And we all know what this looks like. You're taking people's food and you're putting it in the bag. I was going to say shoving it, but no, not shoving it in bags, but you're taking the food off the conveyor belt and you're putting it in the bag. And then back in the day, I helped people out to their car. I don't even know if they still offer this. But, when somebody was checking out and they were finished, you would go over and you'd ask, can I help you out with this? And sometimes they'd say yes, and sometimes they would say no. And we would go out and help them unload their groceries. Well, this is a fine job, especially for a 16-year-old. It was not something that I really loved, but it was something that each one of my siblings had done before me. So I was just kind of following in their footstep. And I didn't love this job. Like I said before, it was fine. I have fairly good customer service skills, so I felt like I did a pretty good job at it, but it wasn't something that I loved. Then I eventually became a cashier, and this position was a lot more enjoyable for me, but still the work of being a cashier or a bagger was just not for me. And I just couldn't seem to push through the fact that I didn't like it. And so I made the decision that I would just rather not have spending money than to work. Well, as a teenager, when all of your other friends are going out to lunch during their lunch break and you're headed home to eat like crackers and whatever your parents have supplied for you, which I'm not dissing my parents. I love you so much and thank you so much for taking care of me and housing me and allowing me to eat your food. But as a teenager, I really wanted to join my friends eventually. And so I decided I wanted to get another job to make a little money so I could go and eat out with my friends. And also maybe like have some money to go shopping and buy some clothes for myself. An opportunity came up to work at a dog grooming place. And what I really hoped to experience in this job was to help assist with the dog grooming, whether that be washing or taking care of the animals, because I really enjoyed taking care of animals. And actually, one of the careers that I was interested in was marine biology. And so just having experience with animals I thought was important for me, especially heading that direction. So I got the job and I realized very quickly that the job was not going to give me the opportunity to do what I enjoyed, which was taking care of those puppies, nurturing them, bathing them, and learning how to develop skills around animals. The only thing that I was doing was answering phones, scheduling appointments, canceling appointments, and I was just a desk girl, which, guys, I understand. I understand how this looks, that I was complaining about some kind of job in high school when I realized that it was actually a good gig for me to have a job in high school, and we all kind of have to pay our dues. But that's the interesting thing, is that we are set up in a society where we have to go into an entry-level position, and that entry-level position is usually just the workhorse. You're kind of doing the grunt work, the jobs that nobody else wants to do. They've paid their time, they've paid their dues, right? And they get to work up within the company, and that's how things are set up. But every single job that I got was doing this work. It's entry-level position where you're working 9 to 5, and every single day you're just doing the grunt work that nobody else wants to do. You're being a workhorse within the company. And this is okay for some people, but every single time I got into these positions, I hated it. I would do it until my soul was sucked dry, and then I would quit. And then I'd go to another job where I thought, maybe this will be the opportunity where I can have a position where I really thrive in. And because I didn't stay very long at any job, I never climbed the ladder to be able to have these job opportunities. So I bounced from job to job to job, through my teenage years, but then into my 20s. And I definitely got the sense from people around me, my family, my friends, that I was not successful. I was not a successful human being because I never stayed at a job. Everybody in my life had a very regular job. They either worked a 9 to 5 job, or I have a lot of nurses in my family where they have their shifts and they do their night shifts. And it's kind of this work that never interested me. And because society really values that type of work, I always felt like a failure. Because for some reason, every time I had a job, I hated it so much. And like I said, it sucked my soul dry and I just couldn't push myself to do it. Now, I am a very, very blessed, fortunate, lucky person. And I never really had to be in a position where I absolutely had to have a job. It would be a great addition to my life, whether that was having a little extra spending money to go shopping. But I've had a husband who is fantastic at working a 9 to 5 job, and he enjoys it. Relatively. There are always aspects of a job that you don't really enjoy. And so I was never in a position where I just had to suck it up and go to a job, which I realize is not everybody's life. And there are many people out there who hate their jobs and they have to continue to go and do it no matter what. But whether or not I'm a lucky person and I've never had to really experience what it's like to support your family in a job that you hate, I still had this sense of failure. And I had a lot of shame. And I would ask myself, why can't you just be like everybody else? Why can't you just get a job? Why can't you just do what you're supposed to do? Why can't you just suck it up and go install heating and air conditioning units for your dad? Why can't you just go back to school and get a career and just commit yourself to one thing? And it was really hard for me because I felt like a failure. Because according to society, you are a failure unless you work in that capacity. When I was introduced to human design, initially it was something that I wasn't interested in, mostly because of the complexity of it, and I didn't really have anybody to teach me about it. But eventually I came around to being more and more interested, and I think ready to receive the information that I was about to receive through human design. So I went on a website, I put in my information, I received my chart, and I knew enough about the energy types that there were types that I really, really wanted to be. And those types were either a generator or a manifesting generator. And that is because a manifesting generator and a generator are the workhorses. They are the life force energy that keeps a company going, that keeps a family going. They are meant to live a 9 to 5 job, and they are powerful, really, really powerful. They have the ability to just put their head down and do work and accomplish so much. A manifesting generator is a fantastic entrepreneur because they have the ability to conceptualize an idea, to create a spark that then creates a domino effect of creation. And then they also have this generator aspect of them, which has the ability to see it through and make it a successful and viable business. A generator is the life force energy. They just go, go, go. And when you think of an actual generator for a house, that is what they are for themselves and for the people around them. So I downloaded my chart. I was super excited to see what I was, and I had convinced myself that I was clearly going to be a manifesting generator. Well, instead, I found out that I was a projector. And like I said, I knew enough, or I thought I knew enough about the types that projectors were weak. That projectors didn't have the ability to manifest and get crap done, right? So I felt really disappointed in my energy type. And then I was so disappointed that I just kind of shoved it away because I didn't want to believe that I was a projector. And I really wanted to function as a manifesting generator or a generator because those are the energy types that really get rewarded with how society works right now. I really should have known in that moment that I wasn't going to be a manifesting generator or a generator because I had all of this evidence behind me that I hated working as a manifesting generator or as a generator. It was not for me. It was not my energy type, and it was something that I loathed. But I always had this idea in mind that I was only successful, that I was only of worth if that's how I functioned. I'm really grateful that I didn't just stay there in that anger of being a projector, and then I started to ask questions of like, okay, what is a projector good at? How are projectors supposed to contribute in society or in a job or a career? And I don't really like how I said supposed to, but what is best suited for them? And as I came to research projectors, I actually ended up feeling this huge sense of relief because projectors are, in fact, not designed to do a 9-to-5 job. They are designed to have ample rest. Now, I think that, and I can feel, anybody listening to this, many of you listening to this, the idea of rest being not worthwhile, I can see it being shameful that you're a person who has to have rest, who has waves of energy where they're very productive and they get a lot of things done, but then they require time to sit back, to recuperate, and to essentially become inspired once again to be able to make another push of energy. And this was very shameful for me, and it was for a really, really long time, to the point where I never rested. I was always going, maybe not at a job, but at my house. And I was trying to do all the things, and I would be moving constantly or draining myself constantly until night came, and I would finally fall into bed, and I would wake up the next day still exhausted, but just going, because that is what your worth is tied to. This got me to a point where essentially I was becoming very ill. It started with my thyroid. I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. Then it continued to go on through adrenal fatigue and through all of these ailments that were popping up seemingly out of nowhere. My body was telling me that I couldn't continue going how I was going. And I met a dear friend in the middle of all of this. And she's somebody who she's a manifester. So she's like a projector where she needs rest time, but a projector and a manifester do work differently in the world, but they both require rest. And she had already learned the value of rest. So she started teaching me, okay, Lara, you have got to rest. This is what rest looks like. She would challenge me to rest, and it took a really long time for me to come around to the idea, and I mean like years for me to come around to the idea that rest was okay and to decondition myself to be okay with resting. There's a part of me that still feels a little like icky inside because I still have those voices in the back of my head, whether they were actual people talking to me or just the things that I picked up energetically and assumed. But I still have, a little bit of those voices that come up sometimes, and I have to force myself to rest. The next thing I learned about projectors is that they are the teachers of the world. They look at a system, they see what's not working well within the system, and they suggest a better way for using the system, whatever changes need to be implemented to make that system better. And they do this in whatever their passions are, or they should do this in whatever their passions are. So no matter what career you're at or hobby or how you spend your time, as a projector, you are designed to be able to see how things have been implemented, how it's not working or is working, and then teach others to create a new system. This was like a breath of fresh air for me, to be able to see that I was actually designed to teach others, and I was designed to have rest, and that 9-to-5 jobs really are incredibly draining for me. It was a breath of fresh air for me to feel that, and at the same time, I felt a lot of anxiety about it because I knew that those around me wouldn't understand that that was okay because they haven't learned about human design. They haven't deconditioned themselves. And many of the people around me are manifestors and they're manifesting generators or generators. And so they function like that, and they see that that is the best way to function. And so I have had to hold on to this idea that it's okay for me not to function that way. And actually, I am designed not to function that way, and that is okay. And they don't have to understand. This has been difficult for me, and it still is. My husband, Andrew, is a generator, and it still is hard for me to feel like I can live in this way. And when I have that need for a day of rest, I can take it with the knowledge that that rest will give me the energy that I need to create. And that's the thing about projectors is if they have adequate rest, then they have this incredible push of energy where they're almost able to get what a generator would have gotten done in a day in a shorter amount of time. And that is how, once again, they are designed. So as long as I honor myself and give myself that rest and really listen, I don't think that's what I'm feeling today. And once again, I feel this trigger come up, whether inside of me or energetically from those listening, where we say, I don't feel like doing that today. And now there are so many things that we have to do every single day that we don't feel like doing. Our days are probably packed full of those. Like, I don't feel like cleaning my house. I don't feel like playing a game with my kid. I don't feel like cooking dinner tonight. But we do have to do those things that we don't necessarily feel like doing. But when it comes to our creation and our manifestation, this is where it really counts. And when you're not feeling that flow of energy as a projector, you are not meant to move forward with it until you feel that flow of energy. And I have to tell you that as I have honored this, I have seen it work fantastically for me. I have my rest time, and that rest time allows me to go internally and to make sense of it all and how I want to move forward. And then I feel this push or this pull, this flow that I talked about at the beginning of this episode that leads me at the right time, the right place, and with the right ideas to where I need to go so that I can work as efficiently as I possibly can. So here I am today, and I am living more authentically in my design than I ever have. As I step into this career that I've chosen for myself to be a teacher, to be a guide, and to share my wisdom that I've gained in my open centers, because I have a lot of open centers. But as I go and I share that wisdom with others, the flow of life is undeniable. As I rest and as I retreat when I need to, the flow of life is undeniable. This is the freedom that learning about your human design can give you. And this is just one aspect of human design. Like I said, there's a lot of different aspects in there, and each one helps you to get a little closer to living authentically how you were designed to live. For me, it gave me a breath of fresh air knowing that the way that I felt my entire life was not because something was wrong with me, but because I lived in a society that doesn't support projectors. Now, I think that us as a society and the world, community, our families, I think that we are actually moving to a place where we value projectors, reflectors, and manifestors more than we ever have before. You can feel this shift in the world where our value isn't placed as much on our works and how much we got done in a day. And so there's more room for me to function in the way that I need to function, in the way that's best for me to function. I'm hopeful that we are moving towards a future where manifestors, projectors, and reflectors are validated and viewed just as important as a manifesting generator and a generator, because every single type plays an important role. And when we all work together, that is when the magic happens, and every single type needs to be valued. So going to your chart, you look it up, you scroll down, and you see your energy type. And I encourage you to do some research to understand what that energy type looks like and functions like on a day-to-day life. I hope that you give yourself permission to be able to function how you are meant to function. And when you look at your energy type, and maybe it feels a little off, or you're like, I've never lived that way, I want you to look and see where you have been conditioned, whose voices are in your head telling you that you shouldn't live that way, what examples you've had, and maybe take one step towards living closer to that energy type. We can't go and make these huge changes in our life and disrupt everything, but maybe there's one way that you can live more authentically and just do it day by day, step by step. And I think that before long, you'll be able to see and reap the benefits of living more authentic to your design. I have been amazed by the conversations that I've had with clients, with friends, anybody who's willing to let me look at their human design chart and help them to discover their more authentic self. Our conversations are so meaningful, impactful, and shift so much in their life. I can feel this kind of click into place where they're like, oh, that's why I felt that way. Oh, that's why this feels horrible, or that's why this feels great, or that's why I have a tendency to do this or that. And I really hope that human design can do that for you at some point or another. If you want help deciphering or understanding or discerning your human design chart, that's something that I obviously love to do and would absolutely love to provide for you. If it's the right time and if you're ready to have and absorb the information, then please reach out to me. You can schedule a session with me on soulscriptstudio.com. You can schedule it right then and there, or feel free to email me or message me on Instagram, and we can just get a conversation going and see if it really is the right time for you to do it. There's also incredible resources out there. So many people who have studied human design for a long time, who are very familiar with all the gates and channels and have taken a lot of time to put resources on their website for that. So if you feel called to just do your own investigation little by little, then there's so many resources out there for you to get started. Thank you for letting me share my experience with you. And I can tell that there's some healing that I still get to do, because as I was sharing this story with you of my work and job tendencies and history, I could feel some of that shame come up. And I could feel just feeling silly telling you about it and being scared that I would be misunderstood. And so all that is telling me is that there's still some things there that I get to look at and that I get to work through. And so I'm super grateful for this conversation that we've had together to bring that to my awareness so that I can then move forward with healing through it. All of our healing simply starts with an awareness. Thank you so much for being here today. I love you guys, and we will talk next week. Thanks for joining me today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a little inspiration. Your support makes a world of difference. Until next time, keep rewriting and reigniting your story.